Instagram. Oh, there we go. Instagram was lacking a little bit. We are live on Instagram and YouTube. I am Dr. Malea Jensen. Welcome to Dr. J's Prescription for Health, where we are live on Saturdays and Sundays, and you can ask questions on medical questions. So we do this every weekend, 9 a.m. Central on Saturday, 10 a.m. Central on Sunday. I am a family practice physician. I am located in Des Moines, Iowa. So I want to welcome you all. If you are not familiar with me, please check out my other reels and live streams, and get to know me. Good morning, Diane and Melanie and Carolyn. Thank you for joining. We appreciate it. We'll get started. I thought we would wait maybe a second or two. Where's everybody listening to? Where's everybody listening from? Where's everybody listening from? What city, what state, what country? Good morning, Ed. Hope you guys are doing well. It is beautiful in Iowa. I think next week we're going to get a little colder, but it's been beautiful. I've talked to quite a few of you that are from California, and apparently you guys are going through a heat wave. I'm not sure I feel sorry for you, but I understand. Good morning, Jim. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. South Florida, Dr. B, thank you. I appreciate you guys being here. All right. Most of you are located in the United States. That's good. Okay, we are live on YouTube and Instagram, so please do not hesitate to ask questions. I will kind of get the ball rolling by reading questions that have popped up on either my feeds or emails or consults. And we'll start with one that kind of came up last week, but I want to go in more depth. And the question is, should we focus more on a CGM or the A1C? In a nutshell, I don't think that we should rely on A1Cs. I think they're a good marker, but we should not rely on them. Good morning, Barry. And the reason being is because I don't think they are perfect. Now, is a CGM perfect? Absolutely not, because it is measuring interstitial fluid. It is not measuring blood. So if you take a blood sample, that is going to be more accurate than a CGM or an A1C. You see, your A1C can be unreliable if you do not eat enough. So if you're malnourished, if you don't eat enough protein, if your red blood cells are not healthy, your A1C is going to be falsely high or low. I'm guessing they're going to be falsely low. Your A1C will be falsely low if your red blood cells are not healthy. That means they're dying sooner than expected. And so they're going to be exposed to sugar for a lot less time. So the A1C will be low, less glycation. A1C is a measure of glucose glycation, not fructose glycation, not any other sugar glycation, only glucose. Jim says, blood work is in. We'll schedule a consultation with you. Timely topic, A1C still at 5.8 versus March of 5.7. So if Retail My Ride is on a carnivore diet and he's eating a high protein diet and he's exercising extensively, lifting weights, there is a possibility that his A1C will continue to ride high. His red blood cells are living longer, and they're exposed to whatever glucose is in your system for a longer period of time. Therefore, the A1C will be elevated. How do we know that red blood cells are living longer? There is something in it, and I don't think Retail My Ride, I don't think we ordered this, but we can get a reticulocyte count, okay? A reticulocyte count. If the reticulocyte count is high, cells are being made, okay? The reticulocyte count. And they could be being made faster than normal. If your A1C is high and your reticulocyte count is low, That's probably because your red blood cells are living longer. All right. Dr. B says, how about A1C plus insulin? Now we're getting a little more information. Your insulin level is very important, okay? It's amazingly important. Thank you, Barry, for the donation to my rescue. Not my rescue, the rescue of my choice. That's where I got tallow. So if you see a little box up there that says donations, it's for rescue, rehab, and rehome. It's located here nearby in Iowa. And so, yeah. Okay, so let's figure out this. Dr. B says, how about A1C and insulin? I think that's a very good idea. Our goal insulin in a fasted state should be between 3 and 5. If insulin is high and A1C is high, probably not. If A1C and insulin are high, that A1C is likely more correct. It's more, I'm losing track of words here. I would say that the A1C is more accurate if the insulin is high. It's telling me that your blood sugars are actually high. Now, if the A1C is high, but the insulin is low, now we might be looking at, hey, this person is likely eating a carnivore diet. They're very low carb, ketogenic, either keto, ketovore, carnivore. The red blood cells could be lasting a little longer, and their A1C is falsely elevated. There is a question over here. Are you a weightlifter? Yes, I lift weights. When did I start? In high school. Shiny asks, where are you from? I am from Iowa. Let's see. Barry asks, any thoughts on microdosing GLP-1 to get over a long time 15-pound weight stall? I don't have enough information, Barry. I don't know what your diet is. I don't know what a long time is. I don't know, is it 15 pounds of just weight? Is it 15 pounds of fat? I still don't know. So I can't answer your question, Barry. Hopefully you'll understand. Retail My Ride is still on a carnivore diet, 90 to 95% of the days, strict, 2.5 years. Awesome. Dr. B, you're very welcome. All right, here's another question that came up. Which protein is better for you, plant or animals? Well, again, a simple answer is any animal protein is going to be better than any plant protein. The animal protein will provide all, not some, not a few, but all of the essential amino acids that are necessary. They also, animal proteins, animal amino acids come with fat. Fat increases the digestion or the absorption of those amino acids. I think this is crucial for combating any, what I would consider anabolic resistance. Anabolic resistance is the inability to build muscle. Yes, I work out. Yes, I lift weights. I would not want to have anabolic resistance where something I am consuming is actually breaking down my muscle rather than building it up. So I will choose an animal protein over a plant protein any day. I don't want to struggle building muscle. As we get older, our fibers, it's harder, and it's harder to build muscle in general. So why would I consume plant proteins? I wouldn't. That's my, that is my choice. You guys can do what you want. Plant proteins also contain anti-nutrients, and they block absorption of the amino acids. You could say, well, I'm going to eat fermented plant proteins, and that could block some of the anti-nutrients. But again, the essential amino acid profile in plants, that's a no-go for me. I'd rather just eat animals and get everything I need. If you guys have a question on YouTube, just ask a question. But telling me that you don't like the way I look is really not a question and really not worth my commenting. Let's see. And same with Instagram, or there's a little question box you guys can pull up. Big drink tea. What type of water are you drinking? I drink filtered water. Okay. Next question. Can a person have glucose intolerance even when all other biomarkers are normal? Meaning insulin, maybe uric acid, triglycerides. So all of those are in what I consider a normal level. Triglycerides 70 or less, HDL at 70 or above, insulin between 3 and 5. So is it possible to have glucose intolerance even when those biomarkers? What is glucose intolerance? Spikes of glucose. Again, this relates to a question that came up last week or the week before in regards to carnivore diets and having spikes of insulin. In general, anytime that we have spikes of glucose, which is going to spike insulin, those spikes of glucose are not good for us no matter what type of diet we are on, because it's increasing glycation. There are some people that are online that are influencers. They might be even doctors, whatever their diet or whatever they claim to be. They could say that as long as the glucose spike goes up and then comes down rapidly, that you are glucose sensitive or insulin sensitive. Again, I'm okay with that partially. And what determines, well, if it comes down in 2 hours, you're fine. But you're under high glucose for 2 hours, and that's glycation. Anytime we have glycation, we're getting advanced glycation end products. That's causing problems with our skin. It's causing problems with our eyes, our organs, everything. So a person who is under any type of high spikes of glucose, anything over 100, normal glucose fasting should be between 70 and 80. All right. And so I don't like people telling me they have any types of spikes of their glucose. All right. Next question. Dr. B, thoughts on testosterone optimization based on symptoms greater than T levels for men and women. What is optimization mean? Let me know. And then I might be able to answer your question. Syned asks, why would one take ketones while eating a low carb diet? Does it give any benefit apart from sports stuff? Maybe better performance, but they usually don't eat low carb. We answered this question last week. Is there a benefit to taking in exogenous ketones when you are in a ketogenic diet? You're going to get a different answer with anybody you ask. Since you're low carb already, it's not really going to change your insulin, so it's not going to affect your insulin levels. Why would somebody take ketones? It would be for their benefit. There are some benefits maybe in a cancer patient. There might be some benefits in people who have a traumatic brain injury or some sort of other brain injury, such as Parkinson's or MS or depression, anxiety, those things. Perhaps adding in more ketones, even though you're on a ketogenic diet, might help with those symptoms. Maybe not, but it might be worth a try. The fact that you, be him asks, I have reactive hypoglycemia. You have hyporeactive glycemia. I don't know what kind of diet are you on. That might help me answer your question. Mr. Boston says maybe don't eat carbs. So we don't know, you're speculating, but let's wait for be him to answer that question. Delta asks, how can I stop spikes of glucose in the morning? I'm a type 1 diabetic, insulin dependent. As soon as I eat, I go from a 6.2 to a 17.3 in a 2-hour period. I need you to help me convert those. I don't know where you're listening from, but those are not in USA standard. I don't know what a 6.2 and a 17.3 is. So if you can convert it for me and re-ask your question, I'd appreciate it. Syned, you're very welcome. TM says, I just got diagnosed with MS, now what? Well, you need to speak with your primary care physician or your neurologist. This is not medical information. This is for information purposes only. I'm not your doctor, and you are not my patient. But there is a reason that you got MS. What is the underlying diagnosis? Could it relate back to your diet, your exercise routine, your sleep routine, your sun routine? All of these things would interplay in a diagnosis of MS. Have I seen MS be reversed? I absolutely have. Dr. B says, optimization of testosterone, a level where the patient is obtaining the most benefit based on energy, functional capacity, regardless of the number seen on a lab. So are we just talking about testosterone, Dr. B? Are we talking about free and total testosterone? Did we get a sex hormone binding globulin? Did we get an estradiol level? Are we only looking at a total testosterone level? You have to ask yourself, what are the cons to taking testosterone? If the person has a testosterone level of 1,000 and their free is 400 or 100, I would not treat that person with testosterone supplementation, HRT. You have to be very careful. Did you check a prothrombin mutation? Did you check a factor V? Are you checking iron studies? Not only just checking hemoglobin and hematocrit, but you need to check liver function. You need to check all of the liver function, AST, ALT, GGT. You need to get those levels. You could be optimizing patient's symptoms. So you're choosing to listen to the patient, and they'll say, oh gosh, doctor, this 900 and a free testosterone 100, I still don't feel right. So I feel fatigued. My muscle mass is down. My libido's down. My energy level's down. I fall asleep all the time. And they're going to come to you and you are a testosterone prescriber. There's probably something else going on. Okay? Check their thyroid. But before you jump into prescribing these people testosterone, you want to make sure that they do not have a blood clot disorder or at risk for developing blood clots. You need to know specifically what these people are eating, what they're drinking, what other supplements they're taking. It is a dangerous plan moving forward by, I think, having HRT clinics. I really do. I'm at that point in my life where I've learned enough about what HRT can do to red blood cells by destroying them. It ages people faster, not makes them younger. It increases the risk of heart failure and AFib. So, what you might consider optimization, it's a cute little word that makes people feel good about themselves when they order HRT for somebody. But we have to be very careful and make sure that we are checking, these people are at very high risk of getting DVTs or strokes or heart attacks simply by putting them on a medication that can worsen their symptoms that they don't know about. So red blood cells are destroyed on HRT. It is very important to make sure that these people are not developing iron overload. Look at their skin. I mean, things that I probably did not notice on people early on in my career that were on HRT, like hemosiderin deposits on their skin, especially in their lower extremities, maybe on the backs of their arms. I did not notice because I didn't look, okay? I didn't know to look. And so learning about all these things, it's an eye-opener. When I started checking a ferritin, a transferrin, a total iron and total iron binding capacity, and a saturation level, along with extensive liver function, I started seeing how badly these people were, their health was damaged because of their testosterone supplement, all because they want to, you say, optimize and feel better with their symptoms when something else could be going on, okay? What is iron overload? Iron overload is usually high non-heme iron. It is just the fact that somebody is on HRT, that thickens the blood. It increases the amount of absorption of iron, or decreases the amount of absorption. So this iron can get locked in organs. Usually I'm just painting a broad brush for Dr. B here. Usually these people who are taking HRT do not have any particular diet, okay? They could be athletes, they're eating a high carb diet. And with a high carb diet, they're taking in a lot of non-heme iron because most carbs are processed, whether it be rice or oatmeal or whatever. They're taking in a lot of non-heme iron. Non-heme iron is only about 3% absorbed versus heme iron that you get from red meat from an animal. The non-absorption of non-heme iron could increase the risk of it getting locked up in your liver. That's why it's important to get a liver function. That's why it's important to check thyroid. Could you get locked up iron in your thyroid? Absolutely. You'll see this with a ferritin level or transferrin level or a TIBC, but it takes somebody who's very good at looking at these markers. See, a doctor who does not get these markers and just puts you on medications is probably not the doctor. Although, if all you want is the next 10 years of quality and you don't care if you die, Dr. B, what I would do is have a non-disclosure and have that person sign a form that if something were to happen that you are not responsible. You have to have a disclaimer. You're treating somebody whose numbers are in a normal range or an optimal range, I should say more so, an optimal range. You're going above and beyond. I would have that person sign a form, a waiver. That is a dangerous aspect. What is non-heme iron? Non-heme iron comes from plants. It's in all of our processed foods because that is synthetic iron. Non-heme iron comes from synthetic iron, so a multivitamin, or you people who take iron supplements, that is non-heme iron. We absorb maybe 3% of it. That's it. Heme iron is about 30% absorbed. You can get more bang for your buck by eating red meat than taking an iron supplement. The iron supplement, because it's non-heme iron, its ability to get locked up in organs and cause, when iron is locked up in our organs, it's causing oxidation. It's rusting inside your body. When we have locked up iron in our body is oxidizing. Same with polyunsaturated fatty acids from processed food, okay? Linoleic acid. That is an omega-6 that has double bonds that easily get oxidized. So imagine if you're consuming processed foods full of non-heme iron, which gets oxidized. We can't absorb it, so it gets locked up in our body. Can get locked up in our body if it's in high levels, okay? It's going to get oxidized. So basically you're rusting inside. Mix that with the polyunsaturated fatty acids and maybe a little bit of insulin resistance, and you're set up for fast progressing aging, fast progressive organ damage. I mean, think about a piece of iron outside in where there's oxygen and rain. What happens to it? It rusts. You're building that up in your body. Okay? So These people who are on HRT are highly oxidized, and they don't have enough antioxidants to keep up with the amount of oxidation that going on in their body. And their skin is the first thing to show it, because doctors aren't looking at their liver function or their thyroid function or their red blood cell function. They're not. They're looking at a reference range saying everything's in normal, but it's not. And so I think they're doing these people a disservice. I'm going to skip to the end on YouTube. Sounds like we have a lot of people who don't want to benefit from the information that others want to have. Dr. B says, excellent information. Thank you. You're very welcome. Ruth says, can you remove iron from the brain? Yes, absolutely. Just like any other cell, you can remove iron. It's going to take some time. Does iron in the brain lead to Parkinson's? I have read that, Ruth. There's actually a book, I think it's Ending Parkinson's. It's a book that I haven't yet dove into, but with my family history, I want to learn as much. But yes, iron in the brain, Parkinson's, MS, I got several people that had iron overload. One in particular, a friend of mine, has MS. His iron levels were extremely high. He had iron trapping in organs. Ruth, he is on glucoferrin, and we've seen some changes in his iron level, maybe not to the extent that I would like it, but we are seeing some changes, but I don't know that everybody will react to glucoferrin in such a positive way. Maybe not, I don't know, but I don't think it's harmful to give it a try. Glucoferrin.com is what we're talking about. Okay. Here's a question. Will the body store excess fat if we're eating extra amounts of fat on a low carb, low insulin diet? No. The body cannot store fat when insulin is low. It is impossible to store fat when insulin is low. Instead, what increasing the amount of fat does is actually increase our metabolic rate. So it's going to lead to more fat being burned, not stored. Ketones will be excreted. Remember, a ketone has about 4 calories, just like a carb, if we're measuring heat in a bomb calorimeter. But yeah, if you're eating fat, your body is going to be burning that, making ketones, and then you're going to excrete those ketones in your urine, your breath, etc. And again, that's, if you're counting calories, that's 4 per ketone. That was a good question. I'm going to stick over here to Instagram because there's less riffraff. If there's a true question over there on YouTube, let me know. But otherwise, I'm skipping you guys. Okay. Why do triglycerides go up with weight loss and a low-carb diet? I have seen this numerous times, so great question. Triglycerides are carried on lipoproteins. They're not just free-floating. Remember, a triglyceride is 3 fatty acids attached to on a glycerol molecule, okay? They are going to be carried in these lipoproteins like LDLs or VLDLs. When we are losing weight, the person will go into what I would consider a transient rise in triglycerides. And that transient rise will stay activated as long as the person is losing weight. Once they stop losing weight, the triglycerides will usually come back down. that body is relying on triglycerides or fat for fuel on this low carb diet. So the liver is going to try to make up for this diet and the weight loss by making more triglycerides, if that makes sense, and then releasing them into the bloodstream. And then we end up checking them and they're high. This is usually early on in somebody who's going low carb and they're in ketosis. So once the weight loss stops, usually the trigs start coming down, HDL goes up. That's what I've seen personally. Ruth says, what is your advice for a 26-year-old with high what? High triglycerides. And what else? What else is going on, Ruth? That is kind of a very open-ended question that I can't answer without more information. What is the blood sugar? What is the A1C? What is the insulin? What is the, what is their liver function? Does alcohol cause high triglycerides? Very much so. That alcohol is causing fatty liver disease. Trigs will be high. Trigs will be high in anybody who consumes any sugar, any grain, any alcohol. Its triglycerides are going to go sky high. That's one of the common markers. Delta asks, how many carbohydrates should I be eating each morning at breakfast? I'm a type 1 diabetic. Why does eating carbohydrates mean anything about you being a type 1 diabetic? I don't understand. There are no essential carbohydrates. You don't need to eat any carbohydrates. You are, like you said, why your blood sugars are going up in the morning. You're chasing as a type 1 diabetic, I don't know if your doctor told you this, but a type 1 diabetic will be chasing their blood sugars all the time. And they dose around it with their insulin. They're chasing glucose because glucagon is very active. In a type 1 diabetic, let's just go with a person who does not have diabetes. In the pancreas, there are alpha cells and beta cells. And the beta cells, which produce insulin, talk to the alpha cells, which produce glucagon, okay? And they talk back and forth. If this one is high, this one is low. If this one is high, this one is low. There's talking. They're in very close proximity to each other, the alpha and the beta cells. And they're constantly talking because they're working in perfect harmony, okay? If we have a type 1 diabetic, that means their beta cells do not produce insulin. So there is no talking of that beta cell to the alpha cell. So the alpha cell is producing glucagon nonstop because there's no talking to tell it to stop. That's why a type 1 diabetic is constantly chasing their glucose levels, okay? Because glucagon is still active. Not even if you inject yourself with a bunch of insulin, is it high enough concentrations to talk to the alpha cell? It is not. The amount of insulin that's secreted right out of the beta cell in a non-diabetic person is such high concentrations that it talks to the alpha cell to shut them down. They talk back and forth. You could never get that amount of insulin concentration that elevated enough to talk to the alpha cell. You would be driving your blood sugar so low that you would probably die. Okay? And so the fact that you're chasing blood sugars and then you're dosing around eating carbs, that to me, that's a mistake. So you're eating carbs and then you're dosing around it. Not a good thing because there's no essential carbohydrates. If you went on a low carb diet, ketogenic, there's no reason that you would be dosing. Plus, you got to think about this. The insulins that you're taking exogenously, they'll tell you, oh, they look just like our normal insulin. No, they don't. Because they're different. One is synthetic, one is not, okay? Your blood sugars in a non-diabetic person actually work better on a protein diet. But if you add carbs in, our body can't keep up. That's why blood sugars spike. That insulin that's secreted from our beta cell really, I hate to use this word, but over time, our beta cells don't look like that type of insulin that takes down blood sugars. That's why they spike. And then you got people, gurus saying, oh, it's okay as long as they come right back down. You can go to 150 and then back down to 90 in an hour. That's fine. No, it's not. Because you're still spiking glucose. That spikes insulin. And then insulin drives that blood sugar down. And the next thing you do is you go eat more carbs to bring your blood sugar up. The type 1 that we're talking about, Delta, is doing that exact same thing. They're giving themselves not human insulin. And you're trying to give insulin that will take care of blood sugar. It's going to take more and more and more, because that insulin is not the same as our endogenous insulin. Now, that type 1 Delta can't really, they don't have any other choice, but they do have a choice in the type of insulin. Our insulin is not a long-acting insulin. We don't have such a thing. There isn't these tiny, rapid, fast-acting insulins in our body. Those are not normal. Those are made up by a man. And so, no, I just feel that, what you're doing, by eating carbohydrates, which causes diabetes in the first place. I mean, that's what causes sweet urine. So, I don't think that that you might not know who talks about this? Who talks about the different insulins? Just recently, I believe it's Dr. Chafee who's been talking about the different types of insulins, that why our insulin in our body looks so much different than the insulin that man makes to give to people. Ruth says, sounds like weight loss could cause high triglycerides only on a low carb diet, Ruth. Usually not any other time. Carla asks, why do some people on a carnivore, or why do some people eat raw meat on a carnivore diet? I can't answer that. I think from their perspective, I don't know, I'm speculating. It might be Dr. Bickman, Ruth, I'm not sure. But why would people eat raw meat on a carnivore diet? Yeah, it is Chafee. Okay, thanks, Ruth. Why would people eat raw meat? Well, the less cooked anything is, the more nutrients it's going to have. Plain and simple. Once you cook things, you're causing oxidation, plain and simple. So people who eat raw meat are, I think that's why they're doing it. I'm not sure. TM says, do you have a moderator for your YouTube? I'm tired of these riffraffs stating their non-doctor opinion. I do not. I'm a production of one. I'm doing this for free, TM. I'm sorry that you're experiencing these things. I don't know if you can turn them off or not. I'm not sure, but yeah, I don't have a moderator. And I apologize for that, but again, I'm doing this for free. I don't hire moderators to help me with these things. I'm hoping that they will go by the wayside when I stop answer or even acknowledging their questions. Colin says there are people who haven't eaten carbs for years and they're okay. And I would agree with that. There are no essential carbohydrates. There just aren't. They're zero. They're not essential. There are no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. T2 says, I eat 60 grams of carbs a day, feel great, but I do work out. Okay. And feeling great on 60 grams of carbs, great. If that you do you, T2. You have a kale salad with a cheeseburger every day. My cheeseburger is 40 sodium for the meat haters. 40 sodium. I don't know what that is. But T2, I would get your oxalate level checked. Kale is very high in oxalates. It's also a goitrogen. And I would get your calcium level checked. You are probably got calcium oxalate stones. You are at very high risk for kidney stones. And you're at very high risk for osteoporosis with your kale. Look up high oxalate foods and you might see where I'm coming from. TM says, I would like to volunteer to be a moderator if you're open to it. Absolutely. You'll have to message me and tell me how that works. T2 says, people, we do need sodium. I agree. Let's see. 5,000 Butterfly says they will moderate for free as well. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Tyler asks, what is your opinion on cycling and does it cause osteoporosis? Well, the fact, I don't know that it causes osteoporosis, but cycling is not a weight-bearing exercise. So if you just cycled or just swam, because of the buoyancy, because you're not doing anything weight-bearing, then you have an increased risk of bone demineralization because the muscles are not tugging on the bones as much as they would if you were doing something weight-bearing. Now, Tyler might be okay doing cycling and not ever have osteoporosis because Tyler might be, making up for it by a very high protein diet and getting enough calcium in their diet, the minerals, phosphorus and calcium and, hydroxyapatite, those sort of things. So Tyler, I can't say that it's always a direct cause that people who cycle are going to have osteoporosis. I can't say that. I would say if you're a cyclist and you are malnourished, you're barely getting any protein, you're on a high carb diet, yeah, you're at high risk for osteoporosis. The fact that cycling all the time, so if you're a constant cycler, you are at very high risk for, especially if you're eating a high carb diet, you're at risk for type 2 diabetes. I've diagnosed cyclists who are very lean and they are pre-diabetic, insulin resistant, and overt type 2 diabetes and didn't even know it because of the high carb diet, spiking blood sugar all the time, increasing glycation. Yeah, it's the red blood cells are disturbed in cyclists and runners, long-time running, long-time cyclists. Your mTOR is also elevated all the time because of the constant cycling 2-3 hours a day that cyclists are doing this. So mTOR never has a chance to come back down. Cyclists notoriously are always eating through the day. They're eating small, frequent meals of carbs and proteins. That in and of itself is causing mTOR to the inability. We need mTOR. We definitely need mTOR. We definitely need insulin, but we don't need them all the time. So you're actually breaking down muscle. You're increasing your risks of metabolic syndrome as well as cancers because you're in a growth stage all the time. mTOR is growth, insulin is growth. And so eating all the time, cyclists, marathon runners, they are increasing their risk of cancer. If you're eating a bunch of carbs, again, I go back to the anti-nutrients that are in those carbs. Those anti-nutrients being oxalates, phytates, tannins, saponins, all of those are, they could be causing osteoporosis as well. As I just mentioned, oxalates are notorious for causing osteoporosis because oxalates tend to bind to calcium, so it'll suck it out of your bones and teeth and increase your risk of getting calcium oxalate stones, which are the most common stones, kidney stones. My oxygen is perfect. I see doctors all the time and they keep telling me to what I am doing. I don't understand. Sam, thoughts on steroid use? If you go back, we talked about testosterone and HRT earlier so go back and listen to that. Irishman says, apparently my red blood cells are on the smaller side. So you have microcytosis that needs to be looked into. T2 says, well, we all die between 77 and 84. My aunt is 106. I got the good genes that you know of, and lucky so far. Lucky about what? Knock on wood. I don't know what you're lucky about. I don't even know how old you are. Frugal Guru says squats and walking stairs is better than cycling. But Frugal, maybe for you and maybe for me, squats and walking stairs would be better. But maybe the cyclist wants to continue cycling. And if once they have enough information to make good decisions, then that's their choice. And I'm not going to be here to tell people what to eat. I'm just going to answer, try to answer questions to the best of my ability if I don't know the answers. So Frugal, you think that squats and walking stairs will be better than cycling? I mean, I can't disagree with you, but also you have to take into consideration that the cyclist wants to cycle, even if he or she knows all of the consequences and all the benefits, then they have enough information to make a good decision for themselves. Just simply making a statement, squats and walking stairs are better than cycling. I mean, really, to who? To you, they are. To me, they might be. But the cyclist, not so much. And so we have to be very careful by making just broad statements like that, because it's tough on people. And we really need to teach people, why would Frugal say squats and walking stairs are better? And then give them reasons why. Okay, maybe the cyclist is lifting weights 5 days a week and only cycling 2 days a week. We don't know. We just don't have enough information. So, Tyler says, so you mean to say if I do CrossFit training, meaning cycling, along with gym, does that mean lifting weights and a good diet, all is well? Tyler, I think what you're describing maybe is a high intensity interval training. And I believe that high intensity interval training is a great way to exercise. When we're referring to cyclists, I'm painting a broad brush stroke here, but a cyclist to me, because I have some as patients, they are competitive cyclists. That's what they do. They are cycling for hours a day. They are very competitive. They're not, I'm going to go to the gym for an hour and I'm going to do CrossFit, lift weights, do bar, do jumping, do cycling. And that would be what I would consider high intensity interval training. And I think that is in your best interest. Okay. I believe in HIIT, if that's what your question is. What is insulin resistance? Insulin resistance is when cells become resistant to insulin talking to them. Every cell has insulin receptors on them. And there's different types of receptors. GLUT4 being GLUT4-4 being one of the main receptors. If the GLUT4 receptor does not listen to insulin that's in the bloodstream, that is insulin resistance. Why wouldn't the GLUT4 receptor not listen to insulin? There could be many reasons. Number one, there could be too much fuel inside, too much energy inside that cell already. Let's just say it's a fat cell. And a fat cell over time will become resistant as a protective mechanism to having more and more fuel put in. It will say enough is enough and it'll close its doors. Okay? That is the fat cell saying, I can't take in anymore or I'm going to explode. So that fat cell is resistant. Can muscle cells get resistant? Absolutely. But I believe fat cells fall first. I believe that you will find out you have insulin resistance from a fat cell faster than from a muscle cell. Okay, that's just from my experience. That's what happens. The only time that is there a possibility that you could have high? Okay, picture this. Whenever insulin is high, the fat cells are getting bigger and bigger and bigger until they become resistant. Once they become resistant, the doors close. Is there a time when insulin is high and there is lipolysis going on? Absolutely. If I tried to force more and more insulin to talk to the GLUT4 receptor and shove in energy into the cell that does not want it. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger, just like a balloon, and then it's going to start leaking. It can't hold anymore. So it's going to leak out fatty acids. That is the only time that you could have lipolysis, breakdown of fat, in the presence of high insulin. Usually that never occurs. Usually when insulin is high, growth is occurring. Fat cells are getting bigger. When insulin is low, fat cells start breaking down, lipolysis. Then you're going to get free fatty acids. You're going to make ketones. The only scenario is when insulin is high and you're getting lipolysis, that fat cell is so damaged. He's lost his blood supply. He's dying. And the only way he knows how to save himself is to leak some stuff out. And in that is inflammatory markers. So get an IL-6, get cytokines, get a CRP. That person is highly inflamed, highly inflamed. Their fat cells are busting at the seams, and they're going to start leaking out all of these things. That person is going to be having very high triglycerides, very high inflammatory markers. Get a ferritin level, very high. That person is at high risk for cancer, okay? Because when growth is going on that much, insulin is so high, insulin causes the growth of all cells, including cancer cells. So you have to be very careful, very, very careful. And so insulin resistance is just blood sugars too high, which causes insulin too high, which causes insulin resistance. So you cannot have insulin resistance without having hyperinsulinemia. In other words, you cannot be insulin resistant in the presence of low insulin. You can only be insulin resistant in the presence of high insulin in the blood. Hello, Mr. Magnificent. Thank you for joining. Sam says, is that why Lance Armstrong got cancer? I think there's a number of things. He got testicular cancer. You know, he was sitting on his testicles all the time. I don't know what his diet is. We would be speculating. But there, you know, I don't know. I would have to look at all of his labs at that time of diagnosis and go from there. Yes, Colin, there are a lot of anti-nutrients in peas and beans. Very much so. Things that grow under the ground, when they're all plants that grow under the ground. Wow, yeah, those are very high in heavy metals as well. Lori says, you mentioned hydroxyapatite. Is it detrimental? What do you mean, is it detrimental? Hydroxyapatite is actually the film. It helps the enamel on our teeth. It is for bone strength, so I don't think it's detrimental. Ruth says, I canceled my DEXA scan because what would you do different and just going to do it now? Well, if you had, if you got a DEXA scan and it showed osteopenia or osteoporosis, most of the people who have osteopenia, osteoporosis are malnourished. They're eating a lot of carbs. They're not getting enough protein. These are older people. They're not eating a lot in general. So they're at very high risk for osteoporosis. They might be eating a plant-based diet, which is high in oxalates, which is stealing the calcium out of their bones and their teeth. If you don't want to get a DEXA scan and, get the radiation, don't get it. Make the changes and say, yeah, I'm going to make changes. Ruth says, how do squats help? Because they're weight bearing. You're lifting your body through space. I would not put the bar across my back anymore, only because from my experience, the compression that when the bar is on your backside, you're causing compression of the thoracic spine. So you're getting basically wedge fractures, compression fractures in your thoracic spine. Look at the weightlifters and get a picture of their thoracic spine, get an x-ray, and you'll see wedging on all the upper 12 for sure, but you'll start seeing that. You'll also see degeneration and wedging in the cervical spine as well. What is a safer way to do squats? You could do goblet squats. You could do front squats where you place the bar across your collarbones, okay? I don't believe in doing this maneuver and holding the bar. I'm cross my hands across and holding the bar on the front side. Again, everybody has a preference, but yeah, I truly believe that people who axial load, their thoracic, their cervical spine, they're going to have problems. They're going to have troubles with their lumbar spine as well. All that axial loading over time, because weightlifters don't just weightlift for a year and then quit. No, they weightlift because it's an addiction. It makes them feel good. It's a dopamine hit for them. They love it. They will continue for years and years and years. They don't quit. Retail My Ride says, been hearing more about bad cell receptors as it relates to insulin and glucose. Does water fasting, 48 to 72 hours intervals every few months, help clean out that bad cell, replace with new? So you're talking autophagy. And honestly, Retail My Ride, I think you mentioned before that you've been carnivore for 2.5 years. In a way, being on a carnivore diet is leading to autophagy. It might not be as fast as fasting. So you might get more bang for your buck as far as autophagy is concerned when you fast. But if you've made carnivore a long-term lifestyle for you, then slow and steady with autophagy is good. Same thing with your exercise. Would I recommend that you exercise for 2-3 hours at a time? No, that means mTOR is elevated. Okay, mTOR messes with our cell receptors as well. So there's a lot of things going on. If you want to water fast, great, but know why you're doing it, okay? And know that if you are not overall eating enough, getting enough nutrition, you're only doing yourself a disservice. It's not good for you. And this is just my point of view. You could go to and hear from somebody else like, what's that? Jason Fung. And he will say everybody benefits from fasting and that you won't break down your muscles in 48 to 72 hours. That could be. I guess it depends on where is Retail My Ride's muscle mass. If Retail My Ride is already a low muscle mass person, they're already getting sarcopenia, they got anabolic resistance, they can't build up their muscle, then fasting is doing a disservice for you. It's not a good thing. So again, we can talk about that on our consult. If any of you are wanting to go over your labs at any time and you want to get my opinion on my labs, you can email me at IronLadyDoc@AOL.com. Iron, IronLadyDoc @AOL.com. Lori says, how do we know what enough nutrition is? Well, Lori, maybe making a consult with me, scheduling a consult, and we can go over it. Just want to make sure I didn't miss any questions. We are live on Instagram and YouTube right now for you guys. Mostly Penguin says, what do you think is the best diet for rowers? I think the best diet is making sure that you have enough protein, so moderate amounts of protein and high fats. I think that you can become fat adapted and do not need carbohydrates. It will take time depending on how long you've been rowing. So it's just like cycling. Depends on how long you've been doing it. If you have been carb loading for years and years and years, it's going to take at least a year for you to really get the same times. Like if you're a competitor, it's going to take a year for you or more, 15, 18 months for your body to completely adapt to, to being fat adapted as compared to the previous diet. But, if you were a high carb diet, I would definitely be checking you for insulin resistance. Let's see. T2 says, yeah, I hope I never get kidney stones. That would be painful as a man. Yeah, there's a long ways for that stone to go through. I've seen men act like they were in labor when they had a kidney stone. I mean, you really feel sorry for them, but usually they hadn't even passed it yet. It was stuck in their kidneys. And it is very painful. The flank pain that people have is very, very, very painful. Your uncle got a kidney stone on an airplane and they had to rush him to the ER. Doctor said he ate too much spinach. Again, very, very high in oxalates. He doesn't eat meat. So yeah, again, kidney stones are not from meat. They are from plants. Frugal says sarcopenia is the older person's worst enemy. It is. I would agree. That's why we talk about, well, that's why I talk about it with especially menopausal females, because they don't have they've lost the protective measures. If they're not eating enough fat, they are at very high risk for sarcopenia. Men, a little less so because they still have fairly good amounts of testosterone even as they're aging. Again, especially if they are eating a high fat, moderate amounts of protein. And for a man, it might be a 1-to-1 ratio, whereas a female, it might be 2-to-1 fat to protein. Sam says, how do I know if I'm insulin resistant? Is it weight gain or loss? If you're insulin resistant, you're going to be getting fat. If you're Sam, I'm guessing you're a male, and Sam is going to start seeing fat accumulation like an inner tube around his belly, or he's going to develop what we refer to as a beer gut. You will absolutely know. If you have love handles, you are insulin resistant. If you have a beer gut, you are insulin resistant. That is fatty liver until proven otherwise. Oh, Dorothy, I love that. That was good. T2 says, best exercise is walking or climbing stairs. I don't know if there's a best. I think walking in general helps you calm down. I think walking should be something that we do leisurely and enjoy nature and get in tune with the ground and the earth. And walking helps to clear our mind. I use climbing stairs as an exercise. I might run or climb stairs for 30 seconds, and then I'm going to go do something else, like lift weights, and then I'm going to climb stairs again. I use walking as a leisurely activity that helps to increase my parasympathetic tone, increase GABA, decrease glutamate, helps me relax. Everything that, So I don't know if there's a best. Maybe a best for this time of, and not so good for that time. Sam says, so if you have stubborn belly fat, you may have insulin resistance. Absolutely. Check your insulin level. If it's 3 to 5, you're in the right. But usually men with belly fat also have a lot of conversion of testosterone to estrogen. That is called aromatization. Aromatization is like it's basically, Sam, is men having a little ovary in their belly, in the fat of their belly. That ovary in their fat is aromatizing their testosterone to estrogen. So you could prove it even more by getting a testosterone level, free and total, getting an estradiol level, getting an A1C, getting a fasting insulin level, and checking your liver function. As I would get a CBC as well. So there's a lot of things that you should be getting that would help determine this. But yeah, if I saw somebody with love handles and excess belly fat, and they also have maybe lean arms, lean legs, that is a typical setup for insulin resistance. Dorothy says fat is brilliant energy for the body, especially the brain. I agree. Thanks, T2. Let's see. Dorothy has CKD, chronic kidney disease. That's what CKD is. I have to eat a good balance of proteins, especially plant, beans, and pulses, because the acid load of animal protein, I don't agree. Let's see. Let's go back to Instagram over here. Carla says, I try to eat fat on the meat. Good. I just don't like it. Okay. You know what you could do is cut it off, Carla, or ask the butcher to give you some fat scraps and then put them into a air fryer and it crisps them up. And it's almost like eating potato chips. So if you can't eat it on the meat, you know, and you can't just swallow it because you can't stand the taste, cut it all off, put it in the air fryer. And I mean, some people will fry it extra, but when you expose fat over time, you know, to heat, you're going to get oxidation. So people like that crispy burnt fat, that's oxidized. So you're increasing the oxidation. The air fryer is going to have less. So can you eat more butter instead? Yes, that would be okay. Ruth says one can be overfueled and undernourished. That's why they keep eating, Ruth. If they're choosing only carbs, because your body senses there's no nourishment, there's no nutrients, you'll continue to crave and you will usually choose the wrong source of nutrients. If that person, when they were hungry, ate steak, butter, and eggs, they would not be overfueled. They will stop eating. You can't stop eating carbohydrates. That's why people are addicted to them. There are global flavorists that make sure that you are addicted to their food products that come in a box or a bag with a barcode. They want you to continue eating it. They don't care if you get sick. They don't care if you have to go to the doctor. They don't care. They want to make a sale. The global flavorists are hired to manipulate from a chemical standpoint, from a crunchy standpoint, creamy standpoint, from a sugary standpoint. They're going to addict you and they're going to manipulate your brain. They know how to do it. You are easily manipulated. Don't eat it in the first place. Get it out of your house. Don't let it talk to you. You're undernourished and overfueled because you're choosing the wrong crap to put in your body. It's no wonder your body is smart. It's saying, I'm so hungry. You didn't give me any nutrients. And then you just go eat some more potato chips or fruit. There's no nutritional value. There's no essential carbohydrates. Stop choosing carbohydrates. If you're really hungry, you'll eat a steak. But no, you'll choose bread instead, or cracker, or whatever it is. If you're actually hungry and you want to eat a steak or some eggs or butter, go for it. I doubt you will overeat steak, butter, and eggs. Have you ever heard of anybody saying, I'm so addicted to steak, I can't stop eating it? No. You're welcome, Carla. Justin, I think I answered this question about my take on CrossFit. I feel like it's more taxing on my body. As long as you're having more time to recover, you know, would I recommend doing that every day? I can't. I've never done it, so I can't answer for you. but by getting blood tests, you can tell, where, especially with inflammatory markers. I would get, again, if you want me to give you a list of, I do this every weekend. So if you want me to send you a list of labs that I think are pertinent, a good long list of labs that are pertinent to be able to give you a good idea of what's going on inside your body, just email me, IronLadyDoc@AOL.com. It won't, I don't charge to have you email me and for me to send you a list of labs that you can ask your doctor for. If your doctor will not order your labs and you want me to order them, I can, but insurance does not pay for them. The labs I use, or any labs that are online, whether it's Life Extension Labs or Ulta Labs or Own Your Labs, they do not accept insurance. It's cash pay. Sometimes you can get a better deal if a doctor orders them. So I have several people that will have me order their labs and they will price shop and see who is cheaper. I'm okay with that too. It does not bother me. It takes me 3 seconds to order your labs. It might take me 5 minutes, but it's nothing that I would not do for you guys if your doctor will not order your labs. So email me at IronLadyDoc@AOL.com. I'm going to skip ahead on the YouTubers. So if you have a question, because some people are taking up the whole sheet, I can't. They're going so fast I can't tell what's what. All right. Instagrammers. Oh, this kind of goes with the other question about a low dose or microdosing of GLP. Why do we take a GLP if it's stimulating insulin? And you just said that oversecretion of insulin is a problem. Isn't that a bad thing? Great question. I can't be so sure that taking a GLP, human taking a GLP, is actually increasing their insulin secretion. I can't, because think about this. GLPs lower your appetite. They decrease your appetite. They increase the time, or they're going to slow gastric emptying. So if there's less fuel actually coming in, that means less of whatever you are consuming. I'm calling it fuel or energy. So if you're taking a GLP and your appetite goes down and gastric emptying slows down, that means it's that whatever you eat is going to stay in the stomach longer. Your insulin is not going to be as high, no matter what you eat. Okay? If you were used to 1,000 calories of carbs, it's going to spike appropriate amounts of insulin or more if you're insulin resistant. If you eat 100 grams or 10 grams of carbs, it's going to spike the appropriate amount of insulin. So if you're on a GLP and you're lowering all your carbs and you're slowing gastric emptying, I can't see how insulin secretion is going to be higher, because there has to be an energy source, a fuel source, i.e. carbs or sugar, for insulin to go up. You just don't secrete insulin from the beta cells without any stimulation. And maybe, I'm not saying that's written in stone. I'm just saying from a logical standpoint, I can't see that a GLP in a human is causing insulin secretion. Okay? Great question, though. There was actually a study done by Dr. Astrup, A-S-T-R-U-P, Astrup, and you guys can look it up in that regards with the GLP. And I believe how they saw that GLPs increased secretion is they were infusing the GLP, The GLP, I believe it was infused. I don't know if it was, I don't think it was sub-Q, but they were giving it to rats. Robin says, I'm all for carnivore. Fat is our best energy source. Haya says, I only consume carbs from tea with honey. Other than that, I'm a carnivore. Well, you're really not a carnivore. Carnivore is not, I eat meat, I'm a carnivore. Carnivore is 0 carbs. So if you're eating honey, you're keto, if anything. Okay, I don't know how much honey you're eating, but over 20 grams is not keto. It's not ketovore, and it's surely not carnivore, and it's especially surely not lion. So you are not a carnivore, Haya. Carnivore is 0 carbs. You're not saying, well, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., I'm carnivore, no carbs. And then the remainder of the day, I'm not carnivore, I eat carbs. That's not carnivore. You know, by definition, carnivore is 0 carbs. Okay? All right. Robin eats meat only, beef, eggs, butter. Good for you. Lori says, nutritionist put friend on calorie deficit menu. Plan to lose weight. Promoting balance of carbs, proteins, and fats. Frequently includes brown rice, veggies. Friend has high insulin. I'm skeptical. You should be, Lori. Lori, here's a scenario. I'm inviting you to a party, okay? And I ask you to come hungry. I want you to enjoy everything that I prepare for you. You're coming to a holiday party. I want you to come hungry. What are you going to do? The most likely scenario you're going to tell me is that, Dr. Jensen, I'm just not going to eat that day. I'm going to wait. I'm just not going to eat. I might even go exercise. I'm going to go really burn some calories. That way I will for sure come hungry. So you just told me that in order to come hungry to my party, you're going to not eat or eat less and over-exercise, or just go exercise because you've never done it. So your nutritionist just told your friend, don't eat as much and go exercise. Well, that is setting your friend up to be hungry and to overeat. So at first, they might be successful because they're so on board with wanting to lose weight that they will fight it. But eventually, they can't. They can't fight it. And the foods that they choose to eat on the low calorie are going to be carbs. Carbs raise blood sugar. Blood sugar raises insulin. Insulin then drops blood sugar. Hungry, 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 hungry. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, Lori. And I think you know that. You're not just skeptical. You're like, for sure, saying this is bad deal. Why would anybody promote a balance of carbs, protein, and fats with brown rice? I mean, it's fine. Carla says, I have insulin resistance. How long does it take to be that to go away? Carla, it's different for everybody, but it's in your best interest if you want to remove insulin resistance or get your insulin in the optimal level of 3 to 5. You want to eat very little, if any, carbohydrates. You want to keep your protein and especially your fat at high levels. So if you weigh 150 pounds and you're exercising, you want to get 150 grams of protein and 150 grams of fat at least, if not more. Carla, I'm assuming, is female. So yeah, fat is very important. Melanie says, is someone taking a GLP and losing weight just masking ill effects if they continue eating poorly? A GLP is a hormone, okay? It It is a hormone that is produced in cells in our body, especially in our stomach. It's higher in our stomach than anywhere. Does our muscle, I believe our muscle produces a little bit. So GLP is a peptide or a hormone that they've made up. It's synthetic. It looks like our hormone, but it's not our hormone. It's actually from the Gila monster, I believe, a reptile. Yeah, a poison, yeah, one of those that has toxins, I believe. They're taking that out of their saliva. Don't quote me. I don't know where they get that GLP, but it's out of an animal. It's out of a reptile, okay? Now, all the GLP is doing, it's telling your brain you're not as hungry. It's decreasing your appetite. It's slowing gastric emptying, so it's making you feel fuller longer. The GLP doesn't tell you what to eat. You just eat less of whatever you choose to eat. If whoever gave the GLP didn't talk about diet, then if the person continues to eat carbohydrates, their blood sugar will be high. Their insulin level will be high. Their insulin will drive the blood sugar down, even if it's only 100 calories they ate. If they're all carbohydrates, 400 calories, 100 grams. If it's all carbs, very little protein and fat, then their blood sugars are high, their insulin spikes, their insulin drives the blood sugar down, and the person continues to eat. And eventually, Melanie, their dose will need to increase because they will eat through the GLP dose. I had, when Victoza first came out, yeah, Frank, the old Gia monster. Yeah, look that up for me. That's amazing. So the GLP doesn't tell the person or teach the people what to eat. Is it masking ill effects? Well, it's not really masking. They're obvious. There's nothing that GLPs are masking. I mean, the side effects are front and center. Just get a blood sugar level, get an insulin level, get an A1C. These people are still insulin resistant. How do UFC fighters cut 10 kilos, so 20 pounds in days? Usually they don't eat, they don't drink, and they over-exercise, so they sweat it out. That UFC fighter, I don't know about UFC fighters. Maybe wrestlers. I have wrestlers in my patient population. Yeah, that is mainly a water weight. Because once they weigh in, then they can go eat or drink whatever they want. And they usually choose bad foods, which mess with their insulin, which makes them tired. Actually, you know, when you gain back, let's just say you're a runner, okay? And you, or let's just say you're a basketball player and you carb load. And then you have to make weight. That's dumb. This is dumb. That's a dumb scenario. Okay. Let's say you are the wrestler, okay? And you stop eating and drinking for 2 days prior to your weigh-in. You lose the weight in water, usually. And then you weigh in, you make weight, and then you go eat whatever. Usually you will eat carbs. That is going to cause water and salt retention. It's going to increase insulin. It's going to drop blood sugars. It's going to make you feel very, very sluggish, very tired. And you're a lot heavier. So you're having to lug around. Your ability to maneuver on the wrestling mat could be less. It's not optimal. If you want it optimal, that is not it. That is not the way to be an outstanding athlete. Rob says, I always get told that if it's not off a farm, it's not worth eating. Well, even if it's off the farm and they're feeding it a bunch of grain, still not worth eating. If that's the only thing that you can get, eat it. Water weight loss through sweating, I agree. So you're either going to have to exercise it off, sweat while you're exercising, or more safely maybe go into a sauna. But again, when you lose all that water, it really disturbs your blood pressure, especially for a young athlete. So their blood pressure drops. They get very dizzy. It's overall just not a really good thing to do. Okay, what I mean by masking is they lose weight and think that will correlate to decreasing chronic illnesses like high blood pressure. High blood pressure is from high insulin. If whatever they're losing in weight is fat weight, so they've decreased their carbohydrates, then their blood pressure is going to come down. But it's not masking. Blood pressure is a symptom of something, and it's usually high insulin. So blood pressure is usually not going to change if insulin is still high. Because if insulin's high, water retention's high, salt retention is high, that person will still have blood pressure problems. If they lose it, like the wrestler, all in one day, everything drops. Blood sugar drops, insulin drops, all of it. Your blood pressure will drop. You're going to get dizzy. You're going to be fatigued. You're going to be loopy. Not a good thing. If carbs are still high, carbs and sugar, will they still get oxidation? Absolutely. They're getting glycation, oxidation. They're eating processed foods. Not a good thing. Is there benefits to Ruth asks, is there benefits to consuming ashwagandha? Ashwagandha, an herb. I don't know, what are you consuming ashwagandha for? Is it anxiety and depression? Why are you having anxiety and depression? Do you just simply go take something to help your anxiety or depression? Or is something that you're consuming causing depression and anxiety? Is it a lack of sleep? Is it a lack of exercise? Is it a lack of sun? But we're just going to go take ashwagandha? I don't, are you taking it for your adrenal function? There's so many things. I can't tell you, are there benefits? I would say you shouldn't need to take any supplement. Your diet, your lifestyle routine, adequate sleep, getting sun, exercising on a daily basis. Bob says, I am clean keto, 6 weeks, down 18 pounds. Congratulations to Bob. Who wouldn't want to lose 18 pounds in 6 weeks on a ketogenic diet? That's awesome. Congratulations. Shreya says ashwagandha is an Indian herb. Does that mean that only Indians grow it or only Indians use it? Because I don't think Ruth is an Indian. And it's used in Ayurveda, a type of medical practice. So it's not really an Indian herb. I mean, if I grow it in my backyard, I'm not an Indian, so it's not just an Indian herb, right, Shreya? Or is it used just by Indians? I don't think so, because I don't know if Ruth is going to an Indian doctor, or maybe not any doctor. But again, we have to understand why we're taking stuff and for what. Lori says, is there an optimal average fiber intake need? No, there is no. Now, if you're eating a bunch of carbohydrates, there is a need. Yeah, but otherwise, on a ketogenic or carnivore diet, you don't need any fiber. The best sources would be eat meat, eggs, bacon, and butter until you're comfortably full. That's my idea of fiber. Ayurveda is an ancient Indian medical practice. Ashwagandha is mentioned in it. For what? I think for some of you who are on this and don't want to hear what I'm talking about, just leave. Right, Pablo? I mean, you can't really see what they look like. So. Is a Bristol stool score valid for carnivores? Carnivores are not going to have stools like a person who eats a bunch of carbohydrates. Remember, if you eat stuff that your body cannot process, that's called waste. And then the waste you show on a card. Is it hard like marbles? Is it solid and it looks like the inside of your colon? Is it soft like a worm, or is it diarrhea? A stool score. Well, I would say that you're measuring the waste from a person who eats a crapola diet, and then the Bristol score would be fine for them. But to measure somebody on a carnivore diet, I don't think it relates, because carnivores are going to have less bowel movement because they're going to have less waste. Beef, butter, bacon, eggs is mainly absorbed in the small intestine. Nothing gets to the large intestine. So it's nutrient dense. It's very nutrient dense. Okay? So you're going to have better chances of getting full nutrient dense foods by eating carnivore than if you were to eat carbs and just wasting it out. People say, oh my gosh, I had such a great bowel movement. Really? That just tells me your diet is shitty. Okay? And we also have doctors telling people that they have constipation or diarrhea, and then they'll give them something for their diarrhea to bulk up their stools, when in fact they're constipated. It's called overflow diarrhea. That means that the stool was so hard and so large that it's soaking up the surface area so the water can't be reabsorbed. So a person who has diarrhea, that's why those stool cards I don't like, because you're going to say, yeah, you got diarrhea? Oh my gosh, we got to stop your diarrhea. Well, now you just worsen their constipation. And that is not a good thing. Ruth, did that answer your question? Let me know. Okay, here's a question. Sam says, how often should you have a bowel movement? Well, it depends on what you're eating. Lori says, do you have a best practice for constipation? First, we have to define what constipation is. Constipation is not frequency of bowel movements. Constipation is symptoms. Do you have pain? Do you have cramping, abdominal discomfort? That's constipation. Constipation isn't defined by, I have a bowel movement every 3 days and I have absolutely no symptoms. My stomach is flat. I have no bloating or belching or anything like that. That is not constipation by frequency. So a person who's on carnivore could have a bowel movement every day. It'll be a small bowel movement. They can have one every 2 days, one every 3 days, but they have no symptoms. So everything is fine. They're using everything that they consume. If they're eating steak and butter every single day, their body is using all of it, and there's very little waste. As long as they have no symptoms, okay? Reggie is saying anytime I have a bowel movement, frequency-wise, again, it depends on what you're eating. So hopefully what I just said will help you. There isn't a healthy timing, date, how many times a day should you have a bowel movement? If you're eating a high fiber crapola diet full of processed foods and high carbs, you are going to have a bowel movement frequency more than somebody else. It depends on how reactive your bowels get. Your bowels might get so reactive and they're saying, what are you doing to me? You're having a bowel movement every time you eat. Some people might be eating a crapola diet and have a bowel movement every 5 days, and they have crampy abdominal pain, bloating, flatus, all of these things. Those are not healthy diets, okay? The person who's got inflammatory bowel needs to really go plant-free. My first name, my last name, so now overflow diarrhea and regular diarrhea are not the same thing? Correct. They are not. They're caused by different things. I mean, yes, what you consider regular diarrhea is lack of absorption, but you got to make sure that you don't have a big, huge bolus of stool stuck in your colon that's causing overflow diarrhea. That's fine. My first name, you can exit this live stream if you like. Okay. Ruth says, I got horrible constipation from too many NSAIDs. Doctor felt my stomach and said I had firm abs. It wasn't my abs. So you had a firm large colon, did you? Did you get an x-ray and did it confirm a large amount of stool? You guys, if you're questioning whether or not your constipation is real or your diarrhea is real, just have your doctor get an x-ray, a flat and upright abdominal film, an x-ray, and look to see if you have, a bunch of stool that's trapped in your large colon. You can see it on there. Okay, let me see. Are there any other questions here? Ruth says it took 3 doctors and a specialist. Well, all you have to really do is get an x-ray, Ruth. Okay. Oh, you went to an ER doctor. Yeah, well, maybe you need to stay away from an ER doctor. All right. You know what? If there's no further questions, we'll call it quits today, because it looks like we're slowing down on questions on Instagram. As a reminder, if you guys want me to review your labs, if you want me to order your labs, if you want me to give you a list of good labs, email me at IronLadyDoc@AOL.com. IronLadyDoc at AOL.com. So IronLadyDoc@AOL.com. And yeah, we will be back tomorrow if you choose. I'm hoping some of you will not be here. You take away from all of the other people who want to learn. Melanie, you have a great day as well. And Lori, as always, my time is for you guys, so I enjoy helping you. Even if I'm wrong, let's talk about it. Let's look me up. Let's look up what I say and let's talk about it. Reggie says, your knowledge is beyond wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. You're very welcome. Thanks for being here. Oh, good. There's another one that's going to leave. Vinny says, hi, thank you. Just found you. I'm a mess. I'm following. Yeah, keep following. Just keep learning. It's not just me, but other doctors, other providers. It's exciting to start learning about your health. Okay. All right, you guys. We'll call it quits. Thanks for being here. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, click the thumbs up, do the things that, fix the algorithm, okay? All right, you guys have a beautiful Saturday, and we'll see you tomorrow. Lord willing, I'll be back at 10 a.m. Central. See ya.